Welcome, and thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule to join us for this webinar. I am Sarah Malcolm-Murray with Rapid Fire Tools. Joining us today is special guest Chris Tane, CTO with Fast-Teks. Also on the line today is Mark Winter, VP of Sales for Rapid Fire Tools, and Kevin Jones, Sales Engineer for Rapid Fire Tools. Before we begin with today's content, I'd like to cover a few logistics. We have muted all phone lines to reduce any background noise. If you are experiencing any technical issues, please notify us using the chat box on the right side of your screen. There will be a Q&A session at the conclusion of the presentation, but please feel free to enter questions as they come to you. Also, today's webinar is being recorded and will be available for you by tomorrow morning. We're going to go ahead and get started, and I'm going to turn it over to Chris. Chris, thanks for being with us today.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Hopefully everybody can hear me okay. If Mark's on the line, if you could just let me know. Hello?
Yep, you're loud and clear, Chris.
Thank you so much. Well, welcome to the call, everyone. Thanks for taking a little time out of your day to join us. And I hope everybody had a nice Thanksgiving holiday. I wanted to go ahead and get things started. First, I'd like to just touch on our target market for Fast-Teks Pro and then go through a brief introduction, and I'll hand it off to Mark. So first off, Fast-Teks Pro, our target market. We are focusing on small and mid-sized business clients and prospects with 5 to 25 workstations. The most profitable small business clients for us have been in the business for 2 to 5 years, have up to about 30 employees, and they have a real dependency on technology to provide their core product or service, and 9 times out of 10 they do not have an IT person on their books. So I like to remind everybody of that before we go into these calls, because it's very important that we're going after the right audience. Okay, so a couple weeks ago on our network security marketing campaign call, we mentioned IT assessments and how important they are to your sales process. And we all know how critical an IT assessment is before you deliver a proposal to a business customer, right? So we always seem to uncover software and hardware that needs to be fixed, upgraded, replaced, etc. Why? Because most small and mid-sized business owners do not maintain and secure their systems the way they need to, which leads to problems, and we've all seen that before. So now we also have a huge opportunity, and this is just one of many, which is Windows XP is going to be not supported by Microsoft in April 2014. So now we have another big reason to tell prospects what can happen if they don't upgrade and why they really need to do an assessment. So some of you are already familiar with the Network Detective software tool for assessments, and I invited Mike Winter, he's the VP of Sales over at Rapid Fire Tools, to share his presentation of 5 ways service providers use IT assessments, and I think this will be really good. Mike will also walk through a high-level demo of Network Detective software so you can see how it works, and I'm sure everyone will get some great information from this webinar. So I'll go ahead and turn it over to Mike.
Hey, thanks so much, Chris. Appreciate that. Yeah, so thrilled to be here, and like you said, happy Thanksgiving, everybody. I hope you had a safe and wonderful long weekend. So yeah, I'm Mark Winter, VP of Sales for Rapid Fire Tools, and just briefly about our company, I often get asked. We've been around since 1997, so it's not like we're a 1 or 2 year old company. We actually began as a managed service provider to larger organizations, doing more network monitoring and servicing things like SQL and Oracle databases. And as a Gold Microsoft ISV partner, we ended up developing our own monitoring platform, which we then sold, and then later focused our efforts in developing and marketing tools specifically for IT service providers. That was in about 2004, 2005. And those tools include our Proactive Watch monitoring software that's been around for, I guess, since 2005-ish, and of course the Rapid Fire Tool Suite that includes Network Detective. The Network Detective platform is now comprised of 4 distinct modules that are available separately, or you can kind of bundle those together to save money, of course. But today I'm going to talk about, and I should mention, we've got thousands of extremely happy users that are subscribers to one or more of our modules, and have for many years. I guess we're going on our 3rd or 4th year now with Network Detective. And there's a number of Fast-Teks franchises that are customers, and if you're on the line, thank you very much. Appreciate your business and enjoy working with you. But as Chris said, so today we're going to talk about IT assessments. And I'm going to spend a few minutes going over some of the top ways that you guys can use assessments in your services business to both attract new customers and build new revenue, and also as a way to increase the stickiness of your existing clients in a contractual or managed service environment. I am joined today by our SE, Kevin Jones, who's going to do a little bit of kind of a quick training on how to use the tool, show you what it looks like, how easy it is to use, and we'll conclude with a special deal. So a little bit about network assessments. As service providers, like Chris mentioned, we all do them or should be doing them, and there's a lot of really good uses for offering IT assessments, again, both to prospects and customers. And these can be general network and system level assessments to deeper security, exchange, or even SQL. And when we speak with folks in the service provider community, the top uses range from everything from lead generation to pre-engagement checks and onboarding, all the way down to regular use at existing clients. And I'll spend a few minutes touching on each of these. So when we're at trade shows or on the phone speaking with folks like yourselves, it should be no surprise that a key area of focus is growing your business by adding customers. And how do you do that? Marketing and lead generation, of course. But along with good tactics, a good list, good copy, you really need a compelling offer or call to action, right? Something that's going to get your prospect who receives your message to pick up the phone and call you, raise their hand and say, yeah, I'm up for a sales call. But let me ask you, have you ever Googled your competition? One of the things that you'll notice is that a lot of them offer free network audits or free network assessments. And how obvious is that? Is there a better way to entice a prospect? You're offering them a free, valuable service, while at the same time, get a chance to look under the hood and see what's wrong on that network so that you can highlight these issues and sell against it. And ultimately, you would need that to quote the opportunity anyway. I mean, it's just too perfect. But performing assessments can be very time-consuming and costly unless you've got the right tools. And the right tools, really should be non-invasive and leave nothing behind, especially if it's a prospecting situation, right? They're a small company. They're not doing their own IT, so they've already got somebody doing their outsourced IT for them. So when you're going in prospecting, they really don't want you tipping off their current provider that they may be looking around. And again, things should be automated. So you can kind of kick off maybe a data collection, let it run. Well, you've got a chance then to spend time with the business owners or stakeholders in that organization, learn about their business challenges, how IT is used there, what problems they're having, and of course build rapport, which is the sales side of things. The end result should really be reports that present the information in a very professional, well-organized manner. And of course, they're coming from you to your prospect or customer, right? So they need to be fully branded with your name, your branding, and of course with your client's information. And what you're looking for is a way to show that their IT is not being handled as well as it might be, right? Like Chris said, look for poor configurations, internal security risks, external vulnerabilities, and more. But if you're offering free assessments or very discounted assessments, you really do need a leave behind that provides good value, makes a great impression of you and the work you've done and can do, of course, but doesn't give away all the details so that they or their incumbent or another IT company can leverage the assessment that you provided them. So, whether or not you use assessments as lead gen, let's say you're ready to build your proposal for, onboarding a new client for block time or fully managed services. You're going to need to do an IT assessment because unless you're looking for trouble, you really can't properly quote the opportunity unless you know the technical makeup of their current network and systems. You need to know what you're going to be supporting, right? How many workstations are active on the network? What type of applications are they running? What's the makeup of those PCs? Are they new? Are they old? What operating system? How much RAM? As Chris mentioned, Are they on XP? There's another opportunity for you. Because this all gives you an idea of the types of issues you're likely to encounter and how needy that organization might be. Then, of course, how many servers, printers, and other network devices will you be supporting for them? And then there's Active Directory. Now, there's a lot more to kind of understand there. Is it set up properly and well maintained? Is it overly complex or too simple for their organization? And how secure is the network from the outside, right? So performing a detailed network assessment really is a necessary component of building that quote and then building the plan to onboard that customer. And Exchange or SQL are part of the scope of your proposal. You want to include a scan of that as well to see how those are set up and being used. And then if you're performing or proposing an Exchange migration, you really do need the deep level of understanding that a good tool can provide you. And then, of course, good documentation of the network, everything from the assets to user logins, Active Directory configuration, etc., definitely should become part of the proposal as a baseline for the project and can be essential for justifying complex or time-consuming tasks. So, when it comes to onboarding, using assessments is obvious. You definitely want to make sure you've got a baseline snapshot of what your new client's network and system configuration looks like prior to onboarding them, since you'll need to know everything about their environment. Right? Similar to what I just talked about with the pre-engagement assessment. You need to know all about the assets you're going to be supporting, right? What they are, their age, software, what's an Active Directory, etc. And this is true whether or not you're going to be setting up monitoring on the network. And it really is essential to document and communicate to your team the environment you're going to be supporting. And most of you are probably using a PSA or ticketing system like Autotask or ConnectWise. So you need to get the information in too. And ideally, you want to be able to take the information from your network assessment tool and pre-populate your PSA with the information from your client's system. And Kevin will talk to you a little bit about that in a couple of minutes. All right, so performing assessments, whether at prospects or existing customer sites, is going to often turn up the opportunity for new projects. And examples of that might include, identifying systems that are near capacity, or old machines nearing end of life. Those lead to, prospective upgrade and migration projects, and of course, XP migration, Server 2003 updates, since those are all going away. And then Active Directory cleanup, to fix group membership things that, where issues might allow unnecessary access to confidential information, or have ex-employees with logins still active. I spoke with a customer of ours not long ago who ran a report against a large network, happened to have been a school system. They found over 700 old accounts with the logins that were still active, so kids could actually get in if they only knew to try. It was a huge security risk and something the on-site IT was supposed to have handled. And of course, that led to a great project for them and a lot of ongoing work. You might also identify security policies across the network or find holes in security practices that need to be put in place. And like I said, Exchange migrations, whether that's to 2010, 2012 or the cloud, it's a great opportunity for you. And having the, the documentation of the current Exchange environment really helps you scope the project, gives you the documentation you need on things like mailboxes, distribution lists, mobile device use, and more. And of course, the reports from the assessments do more than help you find potential projects. They document the issues and provide a tool to help you sell those projects to your clients. And then this is kind of obvious. Running the assessment after you're done helps provide documentation now, one, on the updated environment, but two, it helps show your customer that you finished the work so you can get paid a little faster. So finally, you really should be providing a regular health check for all of your customers, not just doing assessments on prospects. Make this a part of your quarterly business reviews or your regular business reviews, whether it's, I said quarterly, but it could be, annually or twice a year, whatever the case may be. Definitely adds value to these relationships with your clients. And, in some cases, it can be something you can charge extra for. From a general perspective, you want to make sure that you aren't supporting systems that might have been added without your knowledge, or that you're not being paid to support possibly. Uncover issues that need fixing. Identify and document areas where you can sell new projects like I mentioned a second ago. And if you're not already doing so, consider adding a security assessment like Chris was talking about. And in most cases, I think this is something you should be able to charge more for because your current service agreements probably don't encompass things like external vulnerability scans, internal scans on the network, and that type of thing. And I'm sure I don't need to convince you that viruses, spyware, malware, worms, are all a very real threat to your customers' networks and business. And even the best AV and malware protection isn't perfect 100% of the time. And when there's a problem, what happens? A single user can be down for hours, right? And if it spreads through the network, the results are even worse. But by performing regular security health checks, you can really help your clients protect their assets, guard against that downtime, and help them sleep better at night. And the key here is doing it regularly. Running a security assessment once and addressing the first set of issues to uncover, that's just the first step. It's up to you to keep your customers' networks running and secure. What I hear about in many cases with security is that our customers are able to offer for $199, $299 a quarter, depending on the market size of your customer, the business they're in. And this is something that can pay for a tool like ours in no time. And the nice thing is you don't have to have security experts on board in order to use a solution like ours to perform the security collection and then document internal and external vulnerabilities. And then, of course, use it with Exchange. You could also use, we've got a SQL module as well, that if you've got customers who have line of business applications or other critical apps on top of SQL Server, the ability for you to run a routine health check kind of elevates you from just an IT guy now into more of the application space. It's an extra value you can add. And even if you're not a DBA or don't have DBA on staff, you can almost always find somebody for on a 1099 basis to come in and do the DBA work that you've discovered and documented, and you're making margin on them too. And so, again, as far as the regular customer checkups, don't just send reports. Make sure you're getting FaceTime because, let's face it, if you're not seeing them on a regular basis, they're not knowing for sure what kind of value you're delivering them. So let me at this point introduce Network Detective. The whole idea with Network Detective is it's extremely fast. It's designed so that you can run what we call a data collector on your prospect or client network without installing any software, and that's critical. That way, it's completely non-invasive. I mentioned earlier you don't want to tip off their incumbent IT department. No registry changes are made. Nothing at all is installed when you're running the data collector at your client site, and it works very quickly. Scans can run in as little as 30 minutes, 30 to 40 minutes for smaller networks. It gathers the data, produces a zip file you bring back to your office, and then you import that into the Network Detective app where you'll brand the reports with your logos, your information, and generate the reports. And it really is easy to do. I speak with technical sales folks all the time who are able to go on-site, kick off the data collector, and then they're able to, talk through the interview with the client, learn about the business, and build rapport and do their sales. Now, this is important. I'm often asked why I would need a tool like Network Detective if I've got Kaseya or Enable or some other monitoring system. So sure, you can install a bunch of licenses or put a probe out there for a week or two, but what does that cost you in terms of licenses, let alone your time and effort? And what happens in a prospecting situation if something goes wrong? Seriously, if you go in and install software in a network, something goes wrong later that day or the next, who are they going to blame? Themselves? Their current IT? No, you were the last one that put something on that network. So they're likely going to blame you. You might even get a chance to come back and fix a problem for free. And what happens if you don't win the deal and you've got agents or a probe out there? You've got to make another costly trip out, remove that information, and once again, you're in that network. If something goes wrong, you might be liable. As I mentioned, Network Detective is completely non-invasive. You run the data collector without installing anything. You bring the data file back to build the reports. On the other hand, though, Network Detective is not going to get you performance-based metrics and statistics. Your monitoring system, especially agent-based systems like Kaseya, these are running for weeks or longer and should be providing detailed performance reports. But that's not normally appropriate for new prospects. However, there's still a good reason to run Network Detective on your existing customers where you do have monitoring running. That's typically because these programs don't perform any real ongoing analysis or reporting on things like Active Directory, nor do they perform external vulnerability scans, or regularly look for open ports on an IP scan across the network looking for potential security problems. They don't provide professional documentation on things like network shares, security policies, who has access to what, and none that I'm aware of do a deep dive into the Exchange environment or provide regular health checks of the SQL Server And using Network Detective regularly will do all that for you. And there's also a change report where you can quickly identify systems you might not be charging for in your managed services. So I hope I've given you a few things to think about and why IT assessments really should be a key component of prospecting and onboarding, as well as regular health checks and how you can use them regularly in your practice. So at this point, let me turn this over to Kevin Jones, our SE. He'll go into a little more detail, a bit of a demonstration, review some of the sample reports for you, and show you how you can use this tool to help open doors to your customers.
So as Mark said, the tool we'll be running through today is Network Detective. And again, the great thing about it is whether your current assessment process is manual or automated, or whether you're a technician or a salesperson, it really is the best tool available when it comes to quickly performing a very comprehensive assessment. So today I'll walk through the data collection process, and we'll also touch on the process in which you go about creating and generating the reports. After that, we'll do a little bit of a deep dive into the reports themselves, and we'll discuss some ways in which you can leverage them in your assessments. So, like Mark had said, we found that your average 5-server, 50 workstation environment is going to take around 30 minutes to complete. And that's everything from start to finish, from when you've downloaded the newest data collector until you've generated and branded your reports. So you'll actually start with an external vulnerability scan from your office, okay, and download the data collector to 2 thumb drives. Okay, when you get that done, you'll head on over to the prospect or customer site. And once you're there, simply take one of the thumb drives and run the data collector with access to their domain controller. So where we were touching on was the actual process in which we're going about collecting the data. Okay, now that you have the data collector in hand, you're on the customer site, all you need to do is make sure that you have access to their domain controller. Okay, it also works just as well in a workgroup environment if they're too small and they don't happen to have a domain controller. So once that network collection process is running, you're then going to take your other thumb drive and run the local data collection process on a handful of machines. Okay, and then once all of those processes are complete, you can head over to your office, you import the data that was saved to the thumb drives, and begin the report generation. So again, start to finish, we're looking at about 30 minutes. So this is the first step that I mentioned, the external vulnerability scan. Again, you're going to initiate this at your office. You're going to load the Network Detective application, select the IP ranges to be scanned, click Start, and head on over to the prospect and customer site. So now that you have your data collector in hand, you're at the customer prospect site. This is what you will see when you start the data collection process. So you're first going to select the type of scan. The network scan is what you're going to be running to capture just what it sounds like, network-related data. So once you're there, simply input the necessary credentials that you'll need to gain access to their domain controller, if you don't happen to already be logged on to the domain controller itself. You're then going to have an option to select all the Active Directory related content you're looking to collect. Now this can be for the entire Active Directory, or even just a single organizational unit if you so choose. From there, you're just going to type in the web domain related information. Then for the internal IP scans, simply type in the scan range in which you're looking to collect data. It's going to automatically populate a scan range based on the information that it pulls from the NIC on that device. Then if they happen to have any SNMP specific related information, you can input it here. And then also there is the Microsoft Baseline Security Analyzer, which we leverage for password and security related content. It's a free download if they don't happen to already be running that on that particular server. Then you just simply can select the canned categories we have from a web traffic analysis. You can also input your own custom URL and associate a category with it if you so choose. Then it's a matter of saving, selecting the directory that you're looking to save the data file to, typically back to your thumb drive, and click the Start button. So here's the status of the various points in which we're collecting information on the network. And again, what we focus on from a best practice perspective is while this process is running, you can then take your second thumb drive and go to the local devices and some of the other computers. If you're doing a security assessment, our best practice is to run it on 3 to 5 local devices, which will complement and be consolidated into the reports once you get back to your office. So that's the automated process in which we capture data for the assessments. Now, there's a tiny bit of content out there that no automated tool is going to be able to capture, and that's why we have Inform. Okay? Inform will allow you to create your own checklists, questionnaires, and surveys, and then this will provide you with the ability to document items that no tool is going to capture, such as the status of the server room, the temperature, the cabling, phone system, BYOD policies, etc. So you can either use the built-in templates we have, you can modify them, or you can create your own from scratch if you happen to have your own checklists. Now right here you can actually include pictures. What we see here is a big cable mess of somebody's particular server room, and it helps you in kind of driving home your point if you're in a prospecting situation. And then also some of the content can be captured, and you can auto-generate an IT SWOT report. So that's the actual process by which you can capture the data within a prospect or a customer site. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to switch over, and we are going to look at ways in which you can go about generating the reports. So fast forward, we have the data in hand now on your thumb drives. Get back to your office. You fire up the Network Detective app, which is what we're looking at here. And you simply will select the scans. I have a few to select from here in order to generate the reports. So we'll click this one, and we will click Generate a Report. Now we've got the 4 tabs here. Again, these are the 4 assessment modules that we have available. And again, it's flexible. You can do all or none. We're just going to go ahead and select ones that we want to look at. The network, get some of the security related items. Okay, click Next. And now, remember at the very beginning of the process when we initiated that external vulnerability scan, that's where you're going to associate your report with that item as well. So we're going to select that. And here we can go about customizing it. So put our name, then go over here, and if we have particular logos or images we want to put in with the report, we'll add some logos on the page in the headers. We'll move over, and we've got a variety of themes you can choose from as well. Then also, we can associate cover images, so we'll go ahead and put a specific cover image for all 4 of the assessments. And that's it. We go down here, we click Generate, and now the process begins. So this is going to take about 2 to 3 minutes total. And while that's running, I actually generated these, and we're going to hit back prior to this.
Yeah, hey, Kevin, let me also. Yeah, Kevin, let me interject. Just to let you know, when you're setting up your colors, templates, and the images that Kevin just showed you, all of those can be saved as default. So you only really need to do that one time. Kevin was just showing you the process.
Right. Thanks, Mark. Yeah, it's a matter of the front-end configuration. Once you have the design that you're looking to really deliver, it's a matter of one time and you're done. So the directory we're looking at right here, these are the reports that are generated. As you can see, the majority of them are going to be Word documents. We've got Excel and some Visio files as well. But let's take a quick look at the client risk report. Now, the client risk report, there are risk reports associated with each of the modules, and they're essentially the executive summaries, okay? And these are really the great leave behinds because, again, as Mark had said, you don't want to give away the farm and dropping a boatload of content. You want to be able to provide clear, concise information at the high level to executive decision makers who can then move on, and you can either continue the process if you're doing this for a customer on an ongoing health situation, or if it's a prospecting. The client risk report is really one of the greatest deliverables, and we'll go ahead and I'll just take a quick peek. And FYI, the details in these reports we'll touch on a little bit later. I just wanted to show you guys a little bit about what you can expect from the executive summary. So as you can see, we have a point value associated with the network itself. We have a list of items that were processed during the network discovery. And then it's supplemented by content that speaks specific to what outstanding issues have been identified. Okay? Again, you're not giving away everything. You're letting them know, high level, where we're at from a current state perspective. So with that, let's get back into here. And now we've got the reports in hand. As Mark had said, many ways we can use them. So I want to go ahead and deep dive into them, and let's talk about from both a pre-engagement all the way to delivering routine health assessments. We'll go ahead and look at some of these reports in detail. So, the first is obviously lead generation. How do we use these to get in front of the customer? The second is the pre-engagement, where you'll actually do the assessment and present your findings to the prospect in order to try to win the business. And at the end of the presentation, they will get a very clear picture as to the level of service they're getting today, and they're either going to sleep better knowing that they're, where they need to be, or more likely, there's going to be a laundry list of problems and an opportunity to make changes for the better. So, in going through the reports, you are going to notice a few shortcomings. These could be specific to, items that the client is aware of. Are their calls being returned? Are they experiencing system issues or viruses? And these really speak to the quality of the provider, and your findings will very well back up their suspicions. So, in general, old machines in AD, old user accounts, missing antivirus, patches, etc. They usually can all be summed up into one point, and that is the current provider is not doing a very good job. So let's take a look at the users and patching section from the full network assessment report. So this is the user section, and you can see every user account, when it last logged in, whether or not it's enabled or disabled, is the password set to expire, and a bit more. So if you find a lot of old accounts that have not recently logged in, they probably don't have the right policies in place. This could put them at risk for unauthorized access. Now in the patching section, which is what we're looking at here, it's going to go through each machine and tell you whether they're out of date on patching and service packs. The great thing is it breaks things down further, so if there is a SQL server, you can see if SQL patches are missing versus just common operating system patches. So again, if there are a lot of missing patches, then more attention needs to be made specific to improving their patching policy. And again, all these items, they start to pile up to paint a clearer picture of the quality of service they are currently getting. So the exposure to risk, this is another issue when it comes to receiving subpar service. Viruses are a risk that come out of not properly maintaining a network. Infected machines can be compromised. Old user accounts can still get into the system and access sensitive data, or the network could have some vulnerabilities that could cause business downtime. Now, while there are a number of issues that could be present, let's take a look at some that are specific to patching and external vulnerabilities. So we'll click on this report here. So similar to the user report, this is listing out every machine. And as we scroll through this, we can see that on a lot of these machines there is no antivirus. There are also quite a few antiviruses across the network, so there's no standardization. You might have an RMM tool that comes with an antivirus, or you could be an AV reseller and you might be able to assist them in getting these issues straightened out. So, other section we'll look at as it pertains to risk is the external vulnerability scan that we ran on the front end. Now, this is a great way to educate your prospect on fixes that could be made, specific to risks which could emerge outside of their network. Okay. This is showing a scan detail, as we can see what's low, what's high, and the great thing across the board in these reports is a lot of the high impact issues are going to bubble up and be notated, much as this one right here is. And what we're looking at, this is a result from the scan that was run, and we now see that there is an open port. So this is a pretty simple fix. By simply closing the port, you're able to fix this problem very quickly. And again, being able to show this to a prospect really will show them the level of quality that they are receiving from their current provider. So all of this really begs the question, as a managed service provider, whoever they're getting their current service from, do they know about these problems? Well, if they don't, that's really scary, since they are the ones that are supposed to be managing the network. And if they do know about the problems, well, that's just as scary, since they're obviously willing to do a mediocre job. So either way, once you presented your findings to the prospect, they'll know exactly where they stand, and more importantly, who they can turn to should they decide to switch providers. So talked about the lead gen, the pre-engagement. Now we'll switch over to the onboarding. So we have a customer. How do we go about leveraging the tool for a quality onboarding? And you want to make sure that everything, as much as possible, is documented for their current state environment. And this is basically to empower your technicians so they can hit the ground running from day one. So many ways you can leverage the tool for quality onboarding. Again, the reports are very easily referenced, and there are also direct links with AutoTask and ConnectWise. And this will actually enable you to automatically create and populate all of the necessary configuration items within AutoTask or ConnectWise. So if you happen to need the data in another system, as I showed you earlier, the majority of these reports are in Word format, but we also have all of the data that builds those Word documents is available within an Excel CSV file. So I'm going to open that one real quick. And again, this is just to show you all the details that we have in the reports are here in a CSV output option. So if you have a particular internal system that you need to populate, you can export this data into it, and it makes the onboarding process that much easier, and just enables you to start servicing them that much quicker. So you've got the business, you've got them onboarded. There are a few more ways that we can leverage reports specifically around discovering and selling projects. Again, if this is coming from the prospect process, you're just moving down the line from lead generation to pre-engagement to quoting to winning the business to remediation. And if this is for a current customer, you're probably going to be making recommendations based on your routine checkups. And again, Network Detective is just a tremendous tool for uncovering additional business, again, be that reselling opportunity to system migrations. So you've run the reports, you've got a baseline established, and hopefully you know where they're looking to go. Where do they need to be? So multitude of projects that our tool can uncover. I thought we could talk about an exchange migration. So whether the organization is looking for more flexible mobility options, perhaps they're not looking and not interested in maintaining an on-prem server. They might have Exchange 2003 and that's going out of support, and they basically need to head in another direction. So they've looked at Office 365 and they've asked you to help them in getting a quote. And with that, a lot of questions need to be asked and answered. How many mailboxes? What are the sizes of the mailbox? What needs to be backed up and moved? Delegate access, distribution lists, whole litany of items. So we'll look at the detailed mailbox setting report in our Exchange assessment module here. So for such a migration, this report is really going to be critical. It's going to list out every setting on every mailbox, what folders exist, the quotas, and a whole lot more. So since email is, one of the top 3 or 4 mission critical systems, it's very, very important that you get things right the first time. And great thing about these reports is it will help you make sure that the settings are in line with how they should be prior to the migration happening. And then once you flip over, you can ensure that all the necessary configuration items were delivered, which will help you get paid a lot quicker. So again, this is going through every mailbox. So we talked about the Exchange. Again, standardizing operating system. You got folks at XP end of life. Again, great way to leverage the reports from an upsell perspective on new projects, centralizing an antivirus solution, content filtering services, et cetera, et cetera. So this will also make sure that you do the purchase right on the front end. You want to make sure you get the right number of seats, and don't want to have to deal with any hidden gotchas after the fact. So final ways is making sure that you're delivering routine assessments, and Network Detective, again, is a great tool to use for such delivery. Now, yeah, almost every provider out there has some form of monitoring or RMM tool, and every one of those platforms produces some kind of report. They do have great statistics on uptime, downtime, disk I/O, RAM utilization, but they're really only showing half the picture, and oftentimes it's not in terms of what your clients can easily understand. So with Network Detective, your clients will continue to be impressed at your attention to detail and the level of service you're providing them, and you'll also be able to build rapport with them as you leverage these reports during your account reviews. So again, like Mark had said, we're touching on items that most RMM tools don't even come close to: Active Directory, external vulnerabilities, mailbox permissions. And every report is presentable to a customer, which will reassure them that you are providing them with top-tier quality service. And out of sight, out of mind really does apply here. If your customers aren't seeing consistent value in the services you're providing, why should they keep paying for it? So couple these together with your regular account reviews. The reports are a great way to increase retention and also to keep the competition from getting a foot in the door. So while you're meeting with your customer, you can review items such as security permissions and verify the overall health of their current state environment. You can ask questions and, more importantly, answer them as to who has access to what file shares, what level, what users are members of certain distribution groups, who has access to send emails on behalf of important users like the CEO. So all these questions are really important to ask, and even more important, they'll show the customer that you are truly concerned about their ongoing business needs. So let's take a look at the share permissions report here. Now, it's going to show you both share permissions and also file system permissions for each share on the network. Again, it's a great way to verify access on an ongoing basis specific to security for this particular customer. But even more important, it's a tool that you can use with the business owner so they can feel more confident about their business security and, of course, their ongoing decision to choose you as their IT service provider. Again, very simple, easy to read. Another neat thing is change requests over time and how that overlaps with the reports that we have. With Network Detective, it obviously takes care of the documentation side of things, but what's also great is we have change reports for management over a period of time based on whether or not you're running scans on a monthly, quarterly basis. These change reports will actually show you the changes that occurred within the environment over that particular period. So, pretty basic, pretty standard stuff. Everything highlighted in yellow will notate the changes. And what's more important is, you know, there might be items here that will show particular, let's say, to devices. You know, with BYOD policies out and about in organizations, devices are constantly being added to a network, and you might not know about it, and you might be supporting them, but you might not be getting paid for them. So bringing this up in annual reviews or quarterly reviews, monthly, what have you, again, will ensure not only that you're keeping track of both the organizational changes as it pertains to, you know, like I had mentioned, security issues, et cetera, with the customer, but also as to, you know, what you should be supporting and making truing up contracts that much easier. So finally, you know, we do have the 4 assessment modules: the network, the security, the exchange, and the SQL. And I wanted to show you the most recent addition, which is the SQL Server assessment. And it is a tremendous tool to include with these routine checkups. So, you know, like Mark had said, oftentimes organizations will have purchased or added a new SQL-based line of business application, and they might not have the proper skill sets internally to maintain the consistent health and viability of these databases. So with the routine health report, similar to the executive summary that we looked at earlier, this will actually document their entire SQL Server infrastructure and will give them an overall health score, and then sub-scores pertaining to, again, the database engine that is driving their mission-critical line of business applications. So what's even more important is not only you're able to catalog the overall SQL Server environment, so it will go through each and every SQL Server, but if you notice, what it will also do is recommend from a best practices approach what might be an open issue with that particular SQL Server, so you can then follow back up, and now you're moving from just doing an inventory and a cataloging of a particular organization to actually elevating yourself and providing best practices and approach strategies. So with that, I'm going to hand it back over to Mark.
Okay, so just to quickly summarize things. You know, as you saw, Network Detective gives you the ability to run non-invasive scans on your client and prospect networks very quickly and easily. And since the data collection is automated, you won't accidentally forget to gather key information like you would if you were doing this by hand or with point tools. And as you saw, you can customize and brand the reports with yours and your client's informational logos, completely white labeled from you to your customer. And as we mentioned, these are Word and Excel documents. I mean, these are the native docs. So you can add, edit, embellish, do whatever you want with the information. And the ability to populate configuration items in both Autotask and ConnectWise for each client will save you a ton of time and reduce the chance for errors. We can also populate and auto-create contacts in those if you're using the Exchange module. And of course, you know, the whole point of this is to close more new business and projects with existing customers as well. You know, definitely use a security module, as I said earlier, as a way to develop and brand a security service. I really think the results are going to be more satisfied, more loyal clients. And I've never spoken to an MSP yet who wasn't looking for a way to increase the increase the retention and stickiness of their existing clients, while at the same time, creating a brand new and affordable recurring revenue stream. Really, it'll help you find and close project revenue, whether you're providing managed service or offering it a la carte. And offering managed security, Exchange migrations, and SQL Server, routine health checks will really help you stand out against the crowd and elevate you from, just being the IT guy to, a true IT business partner with your customers. So, Network Detective is comprised of 4 modules. There's a network assessment module, security assessment, and then, specific modules for Exchange and SQL Server. Each module is comprised of its own set of reports. In each of these cases, there's typically a risk report that is your executive summary, as Kevin mentioned earlier, and then you get all the details that back that up and provide you the insight into the environment. And we also recently added to the network assessment module, Chris mentioned it earlier, a full XP migration report, which will help you find, document, and sell XP migrations for existing customers as well as prospects. The security module has its own set of reports. Again, the executive summary, external vulnerabilities, which Kevin showed you, all the way down through the share permissions and login success and failure by user as well as by computer. Terrific way to document on an ongoing basis the security of a customer's network, but ties great with the network module and prospecting situations to uncover holes that you could solve if they were to move over to you. Then there's the Exchange assessment module, everything you need to document a customer's existing environment, as well as document and sell Exchange migrations. And finally, we've got the SQL Server module, terrific for routine health, as well as everything else that lets you get the insight into those Exchange environments.